Hi, Mike. Look, you had a slide. Oh, look at me. All right, so we'll get started. Well, again, thank you so much for being here, and we're looking forward to meeting you all in person, and hopefully you can join us. So we'll go through some of these things. First, a quick overview of the medical examiner, the partnership we have with the Medical Research Corp, and what opportunities we have at the OCME for y'all to volunteer, and some of the expectations, the process of how to join the team, and the next step is, Mike said, some of the other requirements that they are in order to join the team. So we'll get right started. Um, so I know many of you, if not all of us, have seen at any given time some of the criminal programs, TV shows that they are. I mean, people most often say, Ducky from NCIS, he's the medical examiner there, and they all know about him. But also, if you notice, there's sometimes some of the shows say medical examiners and some of them say coroners. So there's actually a very big distinction. Coroners are usually elected officials and are not necessarily trained to be or required to be physicians. Medical examiners are actually physicians who has specialized training in pathology and are able to interpret death circumstances, injury, toxicology, and medical conditions to determine cause and manner of death. They usually, again, they have to be physicians and have to go to further training. So an average education for a forensic pathologist that becomes a medical examiner is usually 11 to 18 years. I'm not saying that some coroners are not physicians. I'm just saying that that's what the law states. And that is very dependent state to state. And again, it is, again, like I said, it's dependent state to state. So each of them makes their law. In Virginia, as you can see, there's the light purple one. And that means it's a centralized statewide medical examiner office. It means that there is one single person overseeing the entire state, and they do have assistance with other medical examiners. Everyone in Virginia who performs autopsies are actually medical examiners. And as you can see in the light purple, there's not a lot of states that do this statewide system. We have other kinds of systems like the county-based mixture of medical examiners and coroner offices. This again means that some of them have counties and some of them have coroners, some of them have medical examiners, and some like Texas, another system that I'm kind of familiar with, they have justice of the peace. They're just people in the community that they're appointed to be told you have to determine cause and manner of death. Sometimes they can contract with medical examiners. In Texas, for example, large cities like Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, they do have that medical examiner person, and they assist the other localities or the other justice of the pieces. Then we have in the bluish county district-based medical examiner's office. These are required to have medical examiners. You see that there are very few states, but they're very specific to counties. So each county is going to have one of them. Sometimes counties join efforts just to save resources. And then there's also county district-based coroner offices. So the ones with the greenish, they're all coroners. So they don't necessarily have any medical examiners. And one case is Louisiana. If I'm, from what my understanding is, each parish that they have in Louisiana has a coroner. So there was a lot of issues whenever Katrina came, how to actually manage all the fatality that came from that, because each death had to be through each of those coroner's offices. So as you see, there's a lot of variations of this, but all you need to know is that in Virginia, we have a centralized state medical examiner office, which to us makes a lot of sense, but of course we may be a little biased. And we'll go a little bit more what that exactly means. Again, we were formed by the General Assembly in 1946, so almost 27 something years. I can't do math. 70 some years. And we're a statewide medical examiner death investigation system. Like I said, we have the medical examiners, but we also have other staff that help us determine that cause and manner of death. We have 4 district medical examiners office. They all are accredited by the National Association of Medical Examiners. This is just to tell us how we should do autopsies and the regulations and all of that. And each office is staffed by this assistant chief medical examiners, medical legal death investigators who support investigations for the medical examiners, autopsy technicians, administrative personnel, security officers, and we also have what we call local medical examiners, who are contractors for Virginia, OCME, that help us, and these are some physicians, nurses, and nurse practitioners that help us with some of the examinations that we have to do that don't require a full autopsy. But again, since we are a statewide system, it makes sense. So if one office needs a little bit of assistance, we can move resources more easily than if we were not a statewide system. So what kind of deaths are part of jurisdiction of the OCME? So again, we're completely mandated by code. So upon the death of any person that basically that is not natural or mysterious circumstances, or also if they are in hospital training or any state custody, that's what we call, or sudden death of any infants, we take jurisdictions of those deaths and we determine cause and manner of those. Some of them are going to end up being natural. Some of them, as we know, unfortunately, it's going to be homicides or other accidents, as well as suicides. Again, so what are some of the death investigations? So as I've already mentioned, some of them, the asphyxial deaths, like choking, drowning, hanging, all of those things. Deaths due to criminal violence, including terrorism or shooting, stabbing, all of those. Any kind of accident that is not natural. Suicides. We also take drug overdoses. Inmate or in-state custody deaths, as we call, falls that will fall under accidents. Environmental weather-related deaths. So if there is a winter storm and several people die because of exposure or weather exposure, those also fall under our jurisdiction. And also any unattended death. So I believe if you have not gone to a primary physician for over a year and you suddenly die, we call that unattended death. Therefore, it also falls under a jurisdiction to determine cause and manner of death. All right, so we're moving to the jurisdictions, and this is where y'all may want to start thinking about which office, if you're still interested at the end of this presentation, that you want to assist us, which office you may, it's closest to you and want to help us. Or you may decide that perhaps it is too far for you, and it's okay. There could be other opportunities as well, so don't be disappointed. So we have the Northern office. Sorry, this is individual. That one covers about 95 counties, 38 independent cities, and about 8.63 million people. Oh, I'm sorry, that entire OCME. Northern covers 17, 9 independent cities, and about 3 million people. And our main office here is actually in Manassas. All our offices are co-located with the Department of Forensic Science. So they usually, if you Google it, it's going to be next to it or within the same building. In Central, we have a Central District, the one in green. It covers about 39 counties, 7 independent cities, and about 2 million people. And this one is actually located in Richmond. Then we have the purple area. The purple area we call the Tidewater District. And as you see, it's the largest, smallest in size, but it still has more large population. And that was located in Norfolk, right next to the downtown tunnel, Midtown Tunnel. And then we have the Western. Our main office is in Roanoke, in there, and again, it's the largest, perhaps in landmass, but as we know, it tends to be very rural population in there. So that was a very quick about overview of the OCME, and now I want to move a little bit about mass fatality. And you may say, well, why? Well, first of all, I may not be very clear about what I do with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, but I'm what's called their mass fatality response and planning managers. So part of that accreditation that I mentioned is that each office has to be able to prepare for large incidents that can cause large fatalities, and how the office responds and works with the partners in the state to make that a response efficiently. So that's what I do. And for that, in that position, I'm lucky enough to be able to work with a lot of great partners like the Medical Research Corp. So a long time ago, before I was here and before Mike was in his current position as well, there was a partnership that MRC and OCME started, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But just know that this is why the MRC and the OCME started working together to be prepared for those events, and that's how we actually ended up with this idea of asking MRC to volunteer in daily operations. So what are mass fatality events? So we have a several list of definition of what it means, a mass fatality event, but the most important one is any single event that can overwhelm a local capability to respond to this incident. And that can be depending of how many staff we have available, the incident kind, the incident number of fatalities, how much daily casework we have. As we can hear from the news, overdoses are in increase as well as homicides. So it depends what goes in every day. That a smaller mass incident that has several fatalities can actually overwhelm our offices. And of course, there's all kinds that you can think of that can create mass fatalities. And some of the most common, of course, that it's like 9/11, the Vegas shooting, the incident had 59 fatalities, building collapse like in Florida, and unfortunately the mass shooting in the elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. So what does the OCME actually do in a mass fatality? So we, like we mentioned, we're mandated by code, and because most likely any mass fatality incident will fall under jurisdiction because their incident resulted from chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, explosive event, or any other catastrophic like the ones that I previously mentioned. It will fall under our jurisdiction. And what do we have to do in each one of these incidents? Well, we still have to complete a collection and the examination of those fatalities. We have to determine the nature and the extent of the injury, recover any forensic, medical, or physical evidence directly associated with the remains that can help us with ID, and as well as assist with identification of the fatalities using scientific means. And as I mentioned, certification of the cause and manner of death. And all of these has to be completely sufficiently documented for admissibility in criminal civil courts. So again, as we see in the shows, most often medical examiners, experts have to testify in order for them to proceed in criminal or in civil court. So all of this has to be completely documented in case it needs to go to those courts. In addition to that single event, we still have to complete our daily non-event demands of the community. So like I mentioned, we do have a large, we are statewide system. And again, it does come with some cons, meaning that we can easily get overwhelmed because we still have to complete those demands in the community. We can move some resources, but again, there's 4 offices for the whole state that are responsible for these examinations of the deceased. So in a little bit more detail, what does OCME do in those events? Well, so again, we have to manage, document the scene. We have to include including the documentation of remains, evidence, personal effects. So we're in this scene of the response. So in the picture below, I have the Miami-Dade medical examiner who actually was present at the building collapse that happened 2 years ago. And they were there every day waiting for the recovery of those fatalities and document those properly. Again, we have, as mentioned, they have to be there to the recovery and management of the decedents in the scene. recover the evidence associated with remains that can help us with that identification. Then we move to morgue operations, where we have to do those postmortem examinations. We have to keep collecting the evidence, determine cause and manner, document extent of injury, and all of that I had mentioned. We also have to collect antemortem data. So that just means information that can help us with identification from the next of kin. And sometimes that also means collection of DNA for those scientific identifications. And we also provide identification services in conjunction with law enforcement, where we determine who the decedents are so they can make proper next of kin notifications. And then we provide assistance to release the remains to the next of kin so they can have proper funerals. I can't think of the word, I apologize. A final disposition of the remains according to their beliefs. And of course, also respond to media or inquiries. So again, like I mentioned, a while ago in 2014 to be exact, the MRC and the OCME, they got together and they say, well, if you have to do all of these things for a mass fatality response, it only makes sense that you're actually going to need assistance when something happens, since you're limiting your resources. So they created what's called the mass fatality response for MRC, and we train volunteers for specific roles that can be participant in those events. So crime scene investigator assistant, evidence autopsy assistant, trackers. Again, if it's a large event, we need people who can help in morgue operations to keep track of those deceased and the physical evidence. Remain storage, administrative assistant, and also collection of the data of the antemortem data at what we call the Family Assistance Center. So I believe there was a lot of volunteers trained for this. However, 2022, 2023, we have come up with another issue. We actually are struggling to maintain normal operations as the new world after COVID. Everybody's having trouble hiring and retaining personnel, and so are we. So as of late, we actually don't have as many medical examiners on board. We're struggling retaining medical death litter investigators, and as the deaths increase, we do need assistance. So we had to put this a little bit on pause, because in order to train these volunteers, we need that assistance of the medical examiners, the morgue staff, and right now they don't have the resources to do that. So Mike and I actually, when he was starting this position, I was like, Mike, I have this idea, and he's like, okay, and put him kind of on the spot, but I think it works. He's been working really great. So hold on, skip. So right now we actually need assistance with the medical death investigators. Need some assistance requesting, managing files. So whenever there's a fatality, they need to request all medical records. So that means calling the hospitals, and sometimes they take a while. So we send a request, we don't hear back. So managing those requests becomes really time consuming. So we kind of need assistance with that, with administrative tasks. So like I mentioned, we decided that, well, maybe let's ask MRC if they can help us. And this is where we are, and this is why hopefully you're here, so you can help us with this task that we have in mind. So we came in with these 3 positions. Like I mentioned, the medical death investigator assistant, also administrative assistant, which is just, again, more filing, answering phone, processing requests, storing library records. And we also have an autopsy assistant position. This one actually won't necessarily have hands-on with the decedents. And I think I'm going to explain all of this a little bit more. But these are the 3 positions that we're requesting assistance with that you can select. Okay, yeah. All right, so going more into detail of some of them. So all of these are in-person opportunities, unfortunately, because our what we do is very it has to have security because it has to be admissible in court, and we have to ensure that chain of custody stays in place. We aren't able to present with online opportunities, so they're all in-person opportunities. Again, like I mentioned, this position will report specifically to the administration staff, and they will help with preparing files for a CABL, assisting processing requests, cases or office filing, and assist with surplusing or outdated equipment as well, and other tasks is given. We actually have to have a paper copy of every single examination that we do. So as you can imagine, it becomes very labor intensive to ensure that they're all completed, they're filed properly, and then every, I believe, 5-6 years, we have to actually move them to the library, to the Virginia Library, so we can make more space, but everything stays in paper format. The medical death investigator assistant, like I mentioned, they will need assistance with record requests, determining file management, funeral home follow-up calls, and other administrative tasks. This one will report directly to the medical death investigator on call. So actually, the OCME is a 24 operation agency. Again, this opportunities most likely will be between office hours, where we can again maintain that chain of custody and ensure your safety in that purpose. But again, it becomes very time consuming to be able to keep track of all these requests while they're actually still taking calls to investigate this the deaths and filling all of that. So yes, that's what we need assistance with. And then the autopsy assistant that we're also asking, they will report to the autopsy tech supervisor, and their main responsibilities will be administrative tasks, file management, cataloging file DNA card, maybe some tech talks records, again, all of this paperwork, answering calls, and assisting body release. So again, while they're working on the examinations, we kind of do an assistance in the answering the calls that are coming from every day, and ensuring that the message gets to the right doctor or the right autopsy tech. And just again, because we do have to have security in the office to ensure that chain of custody, letting funeral homes in and kind of telling them like we need you to wait, they're prepping something else, or we can't release this decision just yet, so maybe you can come back later. So those are the small tests that we have in mind. Again, I don't necessarily think that this position will be hands-on on assisting in an autopsy, but most of those administrative tasks. Let's see. We may have other special projects at any time. There will be opportunities for special projects. I do have a couple in mind. We may need, again, some assistance to go to some exercises representing the OCME. We do have a mass fatality trailer that we need to keep stocked and up to date. So we may also need help with that once in a while. The volunteer time frame, so volunteer shifts will most likely be about 4 hours or less otherwise specified. And again, they're all in-person positions at the respective offices. I don't know what else I have in mind here, and I think that's it. Yes, I'll leave it at that. So what are some of our expectations if you decide to come volunteer with us? So we do emphasize confidentiality. So there should be no social media photography inside the OCME offices, and not photograph inside OCME at all. Do not share information outside the OCME. So at times, because you're going to have access to the records that we're putting away, filing, requesting those medical informations, you will see things that most likely are still not available for the media. In some cases, that may actually be high profile. So we do ask that you keep that information to yourself. Again, I do believe HIPAA and confidentiality apply to participating in all OCME volunteer opportunities and no exceptions. So we do know that you're violating this, you're subject to the removal of this OCME. We do take this seriously because, again, all of what we do has to be admissible in court, civil and criminal. So we want to make sure to keep that trust with our partners and the public. Professional demeanor, appearance as well. Closed-toe shoes in the morgue are not allowed. Business casual is acceptable. We expect teamwork, can-do attitude, and to be a little bit flexible. We still starting this. We're still trying to figure it out. So any feedback, we take it. We'd love to have it, so we can adjust your experience with us. Other than the autopsy assistance opportunity, most roles do not have direct involvement with the morgue operations. So if you do decide that you want to be an autopsy assistant volunteer in that opportunity that we have, most likely you will be seeing decedents. You will be near the autopsy suite. So you must be comfortable with that. Any of the other opportunities, they do not have direct contact. However, you still must be comfortable to review some sensitive information, and the pictures, again, they're all in each of the case files, so you must be okay with that. And again, if you decide after this that that's not something you want to do, want to be exposed, we completely understand. And even if you come volunteer once and you say this is exactly something that I was not expecting, again, we understand. We know that what we do, it's not easy, and it can take a toll on a person. So how to join the OCME support team? So that's a great question. So you must be a MRC volunteer and have an approved application, which I believe most likely all of you are. You have to have verification or sign HIPAA and liability documents on your profile, pass a background investigation, and have your badge. We also are asking for you to have the OCME volunteer orientation, which is this one. So if you're here, you're already one step closer, and have the bloodborne pathogen class and protecting confidentiality information and BDH. These doors are important just because, again, you'll be exposed to sensitive information. And if you're working in the morgue, it's important to know how to deal around bloodborne pathogens. And even some instances in the case files, there could be some, we do keep blood tissues cards in those files, so you must know how to handle them if they are exposed or any other, how to deal with those things. I believe there's also a training plan, 5770, it's called VDH OCME MR support team. So you can do that as well in the train profile. So it's not a lot of the courses, and hopefully when we ramp up the mass fatality MRC team, we're actually gonna require this as well, so you're a step closer, and you can also join that team. So you don't have to specifically pick one team or the other one, you can be part of both of them. But at the moment, we're on hold on the mass fatality response team, just because, again, we're struggling with our day-to-day operations. So once you arrive at the OCME offices, what can I assure you expect? So you have to make sure that you sign in and sign out when you arrive at offices. Again, this is for your own safety, and to preserve that chain of custody and that of our casework. You have to wear your badge at all times when in the OCME office, again, in order for us to ensure the public that we're protecting information that it's within our reach. We expect professional behavior at all times. So at any given moment or time, there could be family present. Sometimes the doctors meet with the family of their loved ones to explain the autopsy results. Sometimes we do have attorneys coming for our medical examiners to explain the autopsy results, and other partners or officials that can be at any given time. Your point of contact in each of the districts will be the district administrator. So in Central is Lakeisha, in Tidewater is Donna, in Western is Tracy, and in Northern office right now we have a vacant position. So I'm working with them more closely and directed them to Mary Weldon, who is investigator on supervisor in that office, that she's the one requesting volunteers at the moment. So what are the next steps? So make sure, well, to join our team, make sure you let your local coordinator know that you would like to join the team. Make sure that you have all the training. We will really appreciate it if you complete the feedback or the interest form that we have here. You can you can grab your phone and scan the QR code. It's just a small survey to tell us that you're still interested in this opportunity, and kind of just a little information on your background that can help us place you better if needed. And also just a feedback on this presentation if you would like to change it or not. Again, all of this is still quite kind of new, so we're always welcome for feedback so we can make it a better experience for you. And then we'll send OCME requests, and I think we have another slide that kind of talks about that. And I have this QR code as well in other slides, so you won't miss it. There's the code. So the OCME districts will send a request to the regional coordinators. The regional coordinators will send alerts through VBHS, and then you will be able to sign up for your shifts. Then OCME district administrators will follow up with you with the details of where to park, where to go exactly, at what time to arrive. And then you show up with us and you start volunteering, and hopefully, oh, never mind, you show up, the district admin is gonna welcome you, give you a little orientation, show you where everything is, and then refer you to the working unit. So it's either to the morgue, the MDI supervisor, or herself, since they're a woman, to start working on that position. And then hopefully you can keep coming back with us. We would love that. So I believe in Central, we have already requested some positions, and I think they're up, right, Abby? I believe so. People can start signing up after they have, they're part of the team, if I'm not mistaken. So I think this is all I have for today, and I'll leave that for a second so you can, grab the interest form or the feedback form. You can always reach out with questions, and hopefully now I can go see. Oh, there's a bunch of questions. Oh no, there's not. And if there's anything else or any questions, I'll take them right now about anything or anything. I'm here.
Yeah, thank you, Pearl. And this is Mike Magner again. And I forgot to introduce myself earlier. I'm the state volunteer coordinator, and Perla mentioned me a couple times in her presentation. But yeah, so we're really excited. So again, I got one request for the slides from Ginger Gooding. But again, yeah, next step is, let us know you're still interested. So this orientation was really to just let you know what we're asking for. And it's really up to you. And some people I already saw one comment in the chat. They said, this isn't for me. Thank you. Have a good day. And that's great. This work is sort of specialized. Not everybody in healthcare likes working with the OCME. And so it's a specialized area, but some people get really excited about doing this work. And so, want to make sure that you know about the opportunity and that you have it. There are a couple more trainings that were mentioned in that train slide that you have to take, and that there's a training course you set up, and there's like 3 different trainings, and you'll get credit for this one already. Once you've completed all 3, you get put into our group enroll for OCME support volunteer, and then when there are shifts available, you'll start getting alerts of those shifts.
So I just sent the link for, oh no, I didn't. I apologize. Do not click that. I can't copy and paste. I can't do anything on this new system. Right now, I'm sending a link for the feedback form that you can click on it directly. Is parking provided? This is the real issue in Richmond. Yes, that's a great question. Yes, we do have actually parking in front of each of our offices that is completely free. It's reserved for our purposes. Sometimes because again, we are next to DFS. We have a lot of law enforcement that goes to the Department of Forensic Science, and sometimes they take hours and can't really do nothing about that. But most of the time, there is actually available space for our purpose. So that's a great question. Hmm. And I believe that also this presentation, it's also recorded and trained as a previous, so the same slides are in there, so you can also have access to them in there.
Yeah, there's also in Train a recorded version of this session that we did last summer. And so it's the exact same information. If you see that you've already completed that, you already get credit for that after Kate verifies your attendance today. But if you want to review it again, there's always that opportunity to go back and review that presentation as well.
Someone says I cannot access the form, but I can. Interesting.
Let me see if I can. Yeah, I was able to, but you just have to click on the warning for external site when it says, proceed. Then you can go ahead to the form.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Yeah. So someone says, if I have volunteered as an admin assistant this year, is there additional training for the autopsy assistant? No, Kim, there's not. Just because again, you will not be directly involved with the actual examinations, but more of a support of an admin support for them. However, you must believe that you might be comfortable, seeing, hearing, and unfortunately smelling that part of our agency. So you can give it a try, and if that's not for you, we completely understand. So whether opportunities are available during the weekends or evenings, again, due to our security protocols, we are not allowed to have a lot of volunteers in the weekend or in the evening without supervision. And in the evenings and weekends, we do have a skeleton crew or staff. So unfortunately, no, unless there is a special project that we may have. I'm not saying that that's not a possibility. Mm.
And let me answer the question for Angela. Yeah, so once you've completed all the trainings, we'll assign you in that group and role. And then when the alerts go out from the MRC regional coordinator, since we do this region wide, it won't be from the unit coordinator, it'll be from, for the Richmond area, it'll be from Abigail Hobbs. But she'll send out the alert, and she's waving right now. And then just be like any other MRC event. You just say, yes, I'm available for, whichever shifts you want. And then once we get the roster of who's volunteering for that shift, the person from OCME will be the one that actually calls you to follow up, to tell you, the details of your shift, where to park, and other information that you need. And then when you come in, they're going to be the ones that host you, get you signed in as a volunteer, and give you that orientation and show you around. And then, make sure that they log your hours. And then, for the next shift, you can, volunteer as you're able to after that. So it's kind of a, rinse, lather, repeat sort of thing.
Hopefully, we didn't scare many people away.
So the evaluation form for this meeting, there's no there's no test, but we do ask you to fill out that form that that Perla put in the chat. There's a link there.
Again, yep.
And then there are, in that form, there's some questions that allow you to evaluate your opinion of the course today. There's no exam for this course.
Well, and just to make sure that you, to verify your attendance, you're going to need to go back to the train course where you signed up, and there is a quick evaluation there.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Kate.
I think they had a question about the badge. So that will be your MRC badge, and if you don't have that one, I guess I'll leave that to you guys.
Yeah, if you don't have a MRC volunteer badge that was issued to you by your unit coordinator, please reach out to your unit coordinator and request one. We will have to get one made for you. Some of the unit coordinators can make them locally, and some of them we send off to a company in California. It takes a couple weeks to get it back. But if you don't have a MRC badge, please, yeah, just let your unit coordinator know.
And if you're in Central, like I mentioned, we actually currently are asking for all of the opportunities for the admin assistant, the MDI assistant, and the morgue assistant. So please sign up for any of them. And right now we're asking them for once a week, again, just to see how much interest. If the days don't work out for you, once the alert gets sent, we'd love to know what days do work, except the weekends. and we can try to make it work for you guys. Again, we need the help. So we're trying to make it work. Our mask optional with volunteering. So again, we follow CDC guidelines, whether we're in red, yellow, orange, or green, correct? Yes. But yes, it's up. We cannot force them, so it is up to you.
Also, just wanted to mention, most of the people I think on this call are from what we call our central region, so areas around Richmond and Petersburg, maybe out as far as Farmville. But as Perla mentioned, there are other offices around the state. And so in that form, you'll have the opportunity to say, I only want to get called for Richmond office events, or you can volunteer to be called for other regions as well. And so if you put that on your form, you will get the alerts for like the Northern Virginia one, the Eastern Virginia one, or the Southwest Virginia one. So just keep that in mind, but you're certainly welcome to travel to one of the other offices if you would like to volunteer there as well.
And someone's saying, should we wear our badge and t-shirts? Please do wear your badge. You need to be identified at all times. We all have to wear badges at all times for security purposes, and t-shirt. We'd love to see your MRC t-shirt. That would be great. But yes. And again, our mask optional when volunteering. Again, the answer, yes, we follow CDC guidelines, but it is your choice of what to wear. We just ask for people to respect everyone's choices. And I'm very excited to hear read that people are interested. Hopefully you can join. In the evening, there will be opportunity to volunteer in the evening or weekend. Again, for safety purposes, our volunteer opportunities are during working hours, Monday to Friday. However, there could be in the near future some evening or weekend opportunities, especially with restocking and things like that. But we will let you know.
All right, it sounds like we're winding down. I think we've got most of the questions answered. At this point, thank you all for attending.